Scott Neville, welcome to A-League Access.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to it.
Oh, good. First question from me is, you've been in the A-League for a little while now, and I just wanted to really go back in time to how your football journey started. I know your father played football. Was he the main influence for you getting involved in the game, and how it all evolved getting into the A-League and where you are today?
Yeah, I was actually born in the UK, and my dad had a professional career over in England with Southampton, Sheffield United, and a few other clubs. And then we emigrated to Australia when I was 9, and I think it was the best thing that ever happened because the Australian lifestyle and my progression with football, obviously playing at the same club that my dad was coaching, and then coming through the ranks at the NTC with Kenny Lowe, who was the coach at the time, and then funny enough, he ended up being one of my coaches in the A-League kind of 10 years later. So it kind of went full circle and just progressed through there with the young Australian teams. And then I got a lucky break with Perth Glory that everyone kind of gets at a young age. You know, you need that break. And yeah, it was just an exciting time. I was playing with a lot of Socceroos and international players with Robbie Fowler. And once again, it's funny that I played with Robbie Fowler when I was 18, and then he actually recruited me back to Brisbane Roar when I was 31 years old, and then he went to India and he took me there. So it's funny how football can go full circle, and you meet people early on in your career, and then you can come back in touch with them later on.
Scott, that's a perfect segue because I wanted to skip ahead. You've had a wonderful career, some interesting twists and turns in your career, but tell us please about the trip to India. It's an interesting league from what we hear.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, one of my actual godfathers. He coached the club I went to, and he just said basically when Robbie Fowler called me and the A-League was just finished, and with COVID going on here, they weren't sure what was going to happen, and they offered me a chance to go over there, and luckily Brisbane said, look, you can go on loan for 6 months and come back, but you have to re-sign for another 2 years at Brisbane. So I was very, very grateful for that opportunity from Brisbane. And unfortunately, we were in a hub for the whole 6 months in India, so we didn't leave a hotel, and I didn't get to experience the culture and the diversity. But yeah, the team I played for, they get crowds of 100,000 for home games. But
wow.
Unfortunately, yeah, we were behind closed doors, so I didn't get to see that. But I definitely felt the passion from the amount of support via social media, via the media outlets over there, and they definitely let you know when you're not playing up to scratch. But also, they're very welcoming, and it was just a shame that I couldn't go to Kolkata, where our team was based, and experience the fanfare, because apparently it's fanatical over there. But yeah, I was very grateful for that experience, and then lucky enough, I only ended up missing 8 or 9 games in the A-League due to the COVID causing a delay in the start. So in a weird way, it worked out perfectly for me and my footballing journey.
What was the standard of the competition like? How does it compare to the A-League?
It's very different. It's the foreigners we've got some really good foreigners, and Mumbai City are obviously owned by the same group as Man City and Melbourne City. So there's some really good foreigners there, and the locals are getting better and better. Unfortunately, our club, that was the first time they'd been in the ISL, which is the top league. So we had a lot of Indian locals from the league below because we were so late into the competition. But yeah, the development that the Indian local players have been making, and just their attitude and the energy that they have, it's really refreshing. They're just a bundle of energy, and with the population that India have, like I think it will just be a matter of time before football, the national team in India will go on to have a bit of success.
It'll overtake cricket one day, you reckon?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Those guys are, everywhere you go, you just see Virat Kohli, like literally everywhere you go, there's just adverts for Virat Kohli. So I think cricket's safe.
Maybe one day we can get 100,000 the MCG for an A-League game. I don't know when, but
yeah. Or they did have 100,000 when Liverpool played at the MCG.
Yeah. That's right. And they had 100,000 when Brazil played Argentina, didn't they, at the MCG?
They did, yeah.
And we played a Sydney derby when I was at Western Sydney, and there was, I think, 65 or 75,000 for the first game of the season. So the crowds are there, and hopefully this season the A-League comes flocking back with the crowds, because last season was a bit disappointing with obviously restrictions on crowds, and then a lot of people not sure what's going on with the restrictions and whatnot. I think it dampened the crowd a little bit, but hopefully we can get back to some of those crowds.
Well, Scott, before we talk about the season and the preseason preparation, what is always important for the clubs is the youth. And it's great to see that apparently the clubs are now investing more and more in youth academies. And the Roar itself have the so-called Brisbane Academy for the under 14 and up to the under 19. You must be very pleased with that. And are you, or is the team itself involved in those youth academies?
Some of the players, some of the younger players. I know Jesse Daly helps coaching with the 14s, and there's a good integration. They come and watch our training sessions, and we do a bit of mentorship with the real young ones. But to be honest with you, the players that are in the youth team and the under 23s train with us quite a lot. They play the same system as us, and they obviously train the same. And I'll have to admit that when they come in, you wouldn't know that they're in the youth team and in the under 23s. The development that they're making through these academies is really good. I remember when I first came into Perth Glory when I was 17, 18, I was like a child compared to the older, more experienced players, whereas that gap has really been bridged now. But then that also, on the flip side, it keeps the older players on their toes. And it's important that as an older player, you drive the standards for the young player. But then it's also good that the young players keep the older players on their toes. So, being here at Brisbane, every day at training, we have probably 30 at training, and 10 would be youth team players or younger players. And then within our squad, we have another 10 players who are under the age of kind of 23 and a couple from the local league now as well. So we're kind of basing our club and our team around a youth culture with a bit of experience and knowledge chucked in as well.
Scott, it's been an extraordinarily long pre-season because of obviously pandemic and border closures, etc. How have you settled in now that you're back from India? And how do you feel about this conference-style fixturing where Queensland have been paired with the Victorian clubs?
Yeah, it's been a very long pre-season. I think we played our finals game against Adelaide in June, I think it was. So it's been a long break, and the preseason's been good because we've got a lot of new players and younger players to get them up to speed. And we've been lucky as we've been able to play a lot of games, and we had our 2 FFA Cup games, and then on the weekend we got to play Adelaide to kind of see where we're at against A-League opposition. So the preseason has been long, and we're ready for the season to start now. But it's exciting. We get to play the first game of the season across the whole league, and that's against a Melbourne City side who it's hard to look it's hard to knock at what they did last season. They were by far the best side, and by the looks of it, they're going to be shaping up to be up the top again this season. So it would be a great test for us early on. And then Melbourne Victory, I've played under Tony Popovich at 2 different clubs for 5 years, and he's a brilliant coach, and I think that's what Melbourne Victory need, and they're going to be a tough team this season. And the crowd will come back, and there'll be 25,000 people at Amy Park, and it'll be a great test for us to play those 2 big clubs early on.
Does it mean with this conference-style fixture that you'll be spending a lot more time on the road and being in bubbles? And how will that impact on morale? Because it means that you're sacrificing family time and friends and the whole aspect of being away on the road.
Yeah, we're not too sure how it's going to look now, whether we can get an exemption or if we're going to stay down for a week or 2. Previously, the back end of not the season being, but the one before, we spent 8 weeks down in New South Wales to finish the competition, and then obviously I had 6 months over in India in a hub, so I'm quite used to the hub life. My wife doesn't like it because obviously it's time spent away from her and my dog. But being a professional athlete and being just in any walk of life at the moment, I think you just have to adapt. It seems like we're getting to the end, a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, but we've got quite a young team, so they actually are excited by being in a hotel, playing FIFA with their mates, getting free food, and not having to have any responsibility. Yeah, exactly. So there's a few of us older boys who obviously have a family and kids and wives and whatnot. But like I said, we're professional.
I don't think you should say whatnot after your wife.
Yeah, my wife and dog. Whatnot was my dog.
Okay.
So yeah.
Scott, what are the expectations around the club? I mean, if people think about Brisbane Roar, I think the years 2011 to 2014 come into mind first. I mean, there were 3 championships throughout those 4 years. Ange Postecoglou, I mean, with my German background, of course, Thomas Broich, a big name. So do you sometimes feel there are expectations to get these glory times back, or where does that sit at the moment?
Yeah, I think we're on a journey as a club, and they've gone down a different pathway now. You know, there's no let's be honest, there's no Berisha and there's no Thomas Broich, but we've got a German, Matty Steinman, who's a great addition. I played with him previously in India and now here, and we've got Jay O'Shea, who are great older players, and now we've got a mix of youth who we're bringing through for the future, like for the now, but also for the future. So hopefully we're on the start of that journey. You know, I've been at Brisbane for the previous 2 seasons, and we finished 3rd and 4th respectively, and both times I feel like we got knocked out a bit earlier than we should have in the finals. And after both pre-seasons, going into this 3rd pre-season, I feel that we're progressing on the journey, and hopefully we can finish a bit higher than that on the table and continue the trajectory of the club.
And speaking of pre-season too, you're still in the FFA Cup, which is fantastic. You're in the quarterfinals now, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep, and the game against Queensland Lions was fantastic. The young kid who came on, Cyrus Demi. I mean, is that how you say his name? Demi? He was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, where did he come from, and how is he fitting into the squad?
Yeah, it's crazy one. We signed an Argentinian striker, and we signed a striker from Sydney, and they both had little injuries, so it gave Cyrus a chance. And he's a really humble kid. He couldn't even speak English a few years ago, and got a scholarship to a school up here called Churchies, which Warren Moon was actually the coach of. And he just went from strength to strength, and he finished his schooling, and he's a very bright kid, and he's now studying law, funny enough, outside of football. But he just soaks up information that you tell him on and off the field, and he's very humble with it as well. And I just think his athleticism and his raw pace and power alone, but also I think he's developed a lot technically and tactically, which is what is the most impressive thing for such a young man. But I hate defending him at training because he's just so powerful. But the boys love him, and we're just really proud that he scored the 3 goals, and he deserved it because he worked hard.
The game was a bit at halftime. There was a bit of parity between both teams. Was it the heat, or was it just match fitness, or how did the team pull up at halftime? Because it just seemed like they were not struggling. It just didn't seem like they were into it yet until the second half. They really kicked it up a notch.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that was one of the, like, I've played in Australia professionally for 14 years now, and that was in some pretty tough conditions over in Perth on a Sunday afternoon. And I remember playing in Ballarat on a super hot 40-degree day, but that was probably top 2 or 3 hottest days I've ever played football in. It was kind of 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it was 38 degrees, and the humidity here in Queensland was just sapping. So it was almost, if I could put it in terms, it'd be the same as playing in a sauna. It was that hot. It was just so zapping, and probably no excuse. But some of the Newark boys and the English players, especially the UK-based players, were just like, what is this? Like, this is not how football should be played. So I think by the time the second half came around, it cooled down a little bit, and then you could finally ease into the game and actually breathe.
Yeah.
In that context, you said in the past once in an interview, playing Brisbane at Suncorp is a nightmare, and you were relating actually to the heat and humidity that sometimes is experienced in Brisbane. Now, last season was played at Moreton Daily Stadium. What's your preference now?
Yeah, look, playing for Brisbane now, it's so much easier because obviously we train at 10:30 every day, so we train in the middle of the day purposely so we're conditioned. I know previously when I played for other clubs, coming up to Suncorp or Moreton Daily, it's just zapping. You come out, if it's a nighttime game, it's okay, but you come out of that tunnel and you're almost just like, wow, like this is a different type of humidity and heat. So it is a real advantage for us. And you speak to other players, and in the tunnel they kind of come up to you and say, geez, it's so hot today. So you kind of have that little morale boosting win before the game started, and that's the benefit of you climatize to it, so we're used to it now. But yeah, I can definitely relate to the players that come up here because it is tough. But Suncorp and Moreton Daily is quite similar, still similar.
Well, Scott, that's time up for us. So just wanted to say thank you for joining us on A-League Access. We wish you and Brisbane Roar all the best. Hopefully it's not too hot next time you play against, I'm not sure who you're playing against in the FFA Cup. I don't think that's been announced yet, but wish you all the best for the A-League season, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much for that, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott, good luck for the upcoming season. All the best.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you too. Thank you. See ya.